we revisit a topic we brought up just a few weeks ago, efforts to close Connecticut's achievement gap, the widest achievement gap of any and every state. The Connecticut Commission on Educational Achievement has released a set of results and recommendations on how to change that. We welcome back today Steve Simmons, who is the Commission's chairman, and Commissioner Romney Iyer. Thanks, both of you, for being here today.
Thank you, Lori.
Welcome back. So tell me what it is that, tell me the boldest recommendations, because lots of people have used that word in talking about what you guys released.
Well, we have 65 recommendations that we've made, so it's hard to choose out the individual, but some of the key ones, just to go through them, are, one, we believe that there has to be leadership from the top. We're going to have a gubernatorial election here very shortly. And to get significant change, we need the governor to push this agenda forward, or we're not going to make the kind of change we need.
Let me stop you right there. So do you think that the candidates have been talking about education enough or comprehensively enough?
Well, we never have enough discussion about education, but both candidates do have policy positions they've stated. Their websites have large sections on education. Both candidates have said they're not satisfied with the status quo and want to work on the achievement gap issue that we have in our state.
So that's good.
That is good. We also think we must have high expectations for every child in our state. That includes pre-K for low-income children. That includes remediation, and by that I mean for children that are really far behind, and on average low-income children are 3 grades behind. We must have more learning time, and that can be summer school, tutoring, and so forth. And then finally, one of our key recommendations has to do with teaching. And we must have excellent teaching in our classrooms. And we have a whole series of recommendations on how to improve our teacher preparation process so that we get the best teachers out of our teacher prep schools. How we change the evaluation of teachers so that student growth is part of that evaluation. After all, we expect children to learn in the classroom, and we need teachers to be in part evaluated on that. And then tenure simply cannot be a barrier to removing ineffective teachers. So we have many other recommendations in this teaching category, like a new compensation ladder to reward teachers and more mentoring and professional development and support. But that's a very important category. My colleague, Ramani, you want to add an important recommendation here?
Well, 2 more things, Lori. One is increasing the supply of leaders. Next to good teachers or excellent teachers, school leaders are the most important in changing the climate in the school and ensuring that students actually achieve. And attacking our failing schools. We got to get at that issue. Failing schools are a travesty. We got to make sure that we're turning those schools around.
So when let's take the leadership aspect. When you talk about having good leadership at the top of the schools, what is that? Does that mean recruiting better or supporting them better? Or?
A great question. School leaders, school principals, and superintendents are pivotal to changing the achievement of students. And getting good principals means opening the pipeline where we have extended reciprocity with other states, where we have alternative routes to certification. Same for superintendents. And we should hold them accountable. We should clearly expect change in terms of student achievement and hold them to those results.
Is that going to be a difficult thing to get the unions, for instance, to appreciate and to support?
I think teachers and principals at the core do want students to achieve, and New Haven's a good example where there's been a good working relationship. It's side-by-side problem solving between the district and the union, and I think we should continue to push along those lines to achieve more side-by-side problem solving.
Because I think whenever you talk about accountability and teacher accountability, and you bring that up with union leadership, they get a little hesitant because they don't like to think about, if you're going to hold accountability, they think of that as meaning if you're not doing well, you're out.
Well, first of all, you look at what the unions did negotiate in New Haven, and it was a dynamic, far-sighted new contract. In fact, we have a union leader who heads the AFT, Sharon Palmer, very far-sighted, who supports the vast majority of our recommendations. Of course, we'll have some disagreements, and she disagrees with some, but there's no teacher that wants to have, I believe, an ineffective colleague in the classroom. After all, this is about the children. It's not about the adults. And we must do better in educating our young people. So if we have a teacher that has been given a fair evaluation, has been given time to improve with mentoring and development, and still is ineffective, the children in that teacher's classroom are not learning what they're supposed to. Classroom observation shows it's not a good situation, then that teacher has to be removed quickly, fairly but quickly, and tenure can't be a barrier to removing that teacher. And I think that most teachers would agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up tenure because I hosted a first congressional debate on Monday at Jamoke Academy in Hartford. And the kids were the ones asking the question. And the kids asked a question about tenure and teacher performance. And I thought it was interesting that they cared and they knew about it, you know? I mean, that's interesting.
If you raise the bar, if you set high expectations, kids will perform. We've seen this in other states. We're seeing it in our state. And I think this is where we need to get up to scale, where across the board, poor children can start to achieve at the levels that our state is so proud of for all other children from high-income and middle-income families.
So when you talk about raising the expectations and setting higher expectations, will those be expectations that are elucidated, I mean, verbally to the children and the teachers and the parents, or how do you set those?
Well, first we look at how students are doing in a classroom. Are they learning what they're supposed to do over the course of the year? And yes, those standards should be clearly set out so that teachers, parents, and students, of course, know what they're supposed to learn. We also believe that before a student can graduate high school in Connecticut, they ought to pass something called the CAP test, which we have now in basics like math, reading, science. If a student can't pass the test, they should be able to take it again. They should be given remedial help to try to pass it, and if they don't do it a second time, a third time. But
that's fairly controversial, right?
Well, other states have done this. In fact, we visited Massachusetts, and they said that in Massachusetts, which has had a significant increase in the performance of their students, one of the most important things they did in that state was to require every student to pass a test before they graduated high school on these various subjects. And that immediately raised the standards. Everybody realized they had to get serious now if they were going to get their students to graduate high school.
Right.
So we think that should be done.
Right.
This is so important, Lori, because 60% of poor children graduate, which means 40% don't.
Yeah.
And even of the graduating kids, in 2- and 4-year colleges, 50% of the children coming into 2- and 4-year colleges need remediation. Therefore, kids are graduating without actually the basic college-ready skills that they need.
Right. We only have about 30 seconds, so we want to make sure that people... Let's talk about this report. If you can hold it up.
I will. This is our report. It can be found at ctachieve.org. That's a website, ctachieve.org, where people can read the report, download the report. It's been very widely received in a positive way. We have, in fact, on that website, we have 20 education and other leaders from within the state and nationally who say nice things about it. So we hope people will be able to take a look at it.
Absolutely. That's ConnecticutAchieve.org, and we are going to have you guys back and have a whole show on education.
Terrific.
That'd be great. Don't forget, if you missed something here on The Real Story, you can now watch it online by going to ctnow.com. You can also catch us on YouTube. Thanks for watching this week's edition of The Real Story. Happy Election Day. We'll see you here next Sunday with a look at our new leadership.